Hello, and welcome to the St. Vincent College Philosophy, Politics, and Theology Information Session. My name is Donna Edmonds, and I'm an Associate Director of Admission at St. Vincent. We are glad that you're joining us today, and we hope that today's session gives you a good overview of these departments and programs at St. Vincent. During the second part of the presentation, we will have a question and answer session with our panelists. You may submit a question anytime throughout the presentation by clicking on the Q&A button, which may be found at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on your device. It is now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Michael Crom, who is a professor of philosophy.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us, everybody. We wish you could be with us here at campus. We're blessed with an idyllic setting, and I'm sure you've at least seen photos, even though that really doesn't do it justice. So please, when the world goes back to normal, pay us a visit. We'd love to meet with you. This is normally where I would meet with you in my office to get to know each other, to discuss these programs one-on-one, family, students, and myself, and to take you around campus. But of course, we can't do that right now. And this is what we're most excited about, is to show you the classroom that you would normally come and sit on a small seminar discussion and to get a taste for what studying at St. Vincent is like. In our classes, as you get to the intermediate and advanced topics, we have about 15 to 20 students, so you really get interaction, seminar discussion, and get to work closely with fellow students and with faculty. But the reality is, like all of you, behind the curtain, I'm just at home. I don't have an office. And so I'm borrowing my 9-year-old son's room during the day. I'm sure many of you are in the same circumstance where, we really just have to find the places that we can. I'll even show you my son here. His Lego collection, his bed is kind of made. The rules have relaxed a little bit in the Crom household. What needs to go on each day. I'm anxious to get back into the classroom, get back to campus, and to meet students and families like yourselves. So I'm going to start off with a more formal introduction to our programs, and then I'll pass things off to Drs. Watson and McMahon for some remarks about politics and theology. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions. So please bear with me here on a brief lecture. We're going to talk about 3 related programs: philosophy, philosophy and politics, and philosophy and theology. And the good news is that you don't have to decide now. If you join us at St. Vincent, we encourage our students to be explorers, to take courses in our departments and determine as you grow in self-knowledge which program is best for you. And it's very common for our students to pick up a minor or second major in nearly any department at St. Vincent. We have 2 students who are here for the Q&A and 1 alum who can speak to that, how much their journeys and their time at St. Vincent worked through a variety of departments and allowed them to pursue what was most fulfilling for them. So let me first say something that applies to all 3 of these majors, and really to all of our departments. The most obvious benefit of studying with us is that you get to engage with the deepest perennial questions of the human person. What is a good life? What type of government is best suited for the common good of human flourishing? What is the relationship between church and state? Are faith and reason, religion and science compatible? At St. Vincent, you will have small classes with professors and friends who can help you to read the best that has been written on these questions and wrestle with the great thinkers through the ages. And we will challenge you to become the best version of yourself. We want you to wrestle with Plato and Aristotle as much as with Machiavelli and Nietzsche, with scripture and tradition as much as with the critics of the church. We also want you to grow outside the classroom, whether that's in discussion groups, lectures by scholars coming to campus from all over the world in clubs or sports, joining us on trips to academic conferences, cultural opportunities, service or travel courses, with campus ministry, or by attending daily prayer or mass, or spiritual retreats at the largest Benedictine monastery in the world. I should also mention that we are supported by 2 centers, the Center for Political and Economic Thought and the Center for Catholic Thought and Culture. We would be happy to take these up in the Q&A. Secondly, these habits of mind and of living that you will form here will be of obvious benefit when you leave with your bachelor's degree. Our majors are prepared not just for one job, but for life as a whole. You'll be ready for the challenges of life that go beyond just a career, for you will come to know yourself more deeply and will be prepared for the personal, moral, vocational, and spiritual challenges that life will throw at you. And yes, this will help you to get a good job. That's the good news. We don't think in either or terms, but in both and. The best way to prepare yourself for a job is to form the habits of deep thinking, reading and listening carefully, and communicating both with those with whom you agree and those with whom you do not in a civil and charitable fashion. We very much hope that you'll join us at St. Vincent. So that's the big picture. And now we want to say a little about the nuts and bolts, about the programs of study that we offer. I'm going to talk about the philosophy side of things and then pass you off to Dr. Watson in politics and then Dr. McMahon in theology. So let me bring up for you the website, the philosophy website. You can see here the curriculum. If you do either the joint major with politics or theology, you'll do a modified version of this. What you can see in general is that our approach is to root you in a discussion about the deepest questions of human existence that has been going on for thousands of years, from ancient philosophy up to 19th and 20th century philosophy. You will not be reading textbooks, but the great works of these philosophers, political theorists, and theologians. We do have quite a few electives, as you'll see, 12 credits in the standard major, so that you can focus on specific topics of your own interest. And beginning in the junior year, you'll start work on a thesis or oral exam that helps you to bring together the insights and intellectual virtues that you will have formed. Okay, enough from me. Let me pass you off to Dr. Watson, chair of the politics department, who can tell you more about the philosophy and politics joint major and his side of the program.
Thank you very much, Michael. I'm very pleased to be with you, if only virtually today from my home study. As Michael said, I'm the chair of the politics department here at St. Vincent. And the way the politics or political science department works here is very unlike the way most political science departments in America work, frankly. We concentrate on what we call the great books of Western civilization and the great political writings of the American tradition. We don't assign textbooks. If we want to know something about what Plato said about justice, we read Plato. If we want to know something about what Aristotle said about the nature of the city and political life, we read Aristotle, and so forth, through Augustine and Aquinas and modern thinkers, Locke, leading up to the foundations of America. We're very interested in the relationship of American constitutionalism to the larger Western intellectual tradition. We spend a lot of time trying to unpack what America is really about, what America's founders really thought, the enduring meaning and implications of the constitution they created, of the regime they created. So as we think of it as Plato to NATO, as it were, with a heavy concentration on America. Great books of Western civilization, great political writings of the American tradition. We sort of bring philosophy down from the clouds, if you will. And one of the results of bringing philosophy down from the clouds a little bit, we're very philosophical in the politics department, but we deal with, you know, the sort of enduring questions, but also the application of the enduring questions to contemporary issues in politics and political life, down to, you know, what's going on in the latest election, for example. So we try to cover it all, but we do so through a very sort of philosophically serious great books approach. The result is our students get some fantastic placements, and I'll have some time to talk to you a little bit about that, I think, in the Q&A. Let me stop there, and I'll hand it back to Michael.
Thank you, Brad. So here is the joint major in philosophy and politics. Just to show it to you briefly, of course, you can look at it on your own, but you'll see it's very much like the philosophy major. Some of the courses are taken out, and you can see there's this wonderful connection with political thought, political theory that works together. In the capstone, we integrate these together so that we encourage students to pursue a project that allow them to bring together, say, the philosophy, political theory side, and then perhaps apply that to a situation in contemporary American politics. So now I'll turn things over to Dr. McMahon, who's going to talk to you about the theology side, the theology department, and then the theology side of the philosophy and theology joint major.
Thanks, Dr. Crum. I have to say that St. Vincent is a unique and exciting place to study theology. We're the home of the largest Benedictine monastery in the world. And the Benedictines are not sequestered in their monastery. They are in just about every department on campus. They're in the administration. They are ubiquitous, and they play an active role in the life of the campus, and they play a really important role in the theology department. We not only have this largest Benedictine monastery in the world, we're also the home to one of the older seminaries in the United States, a seminary that hosts both monastic students and students from dioceses around the region. We're also the home to a vibrant and one of the largest parishes in the Diocese of Greensburg, as well as being the home to one of the best liberal arts colleges in the Northeast, St. Vincent College. So we have all of these institutions present, and it makes St. Vincent, again, an exciting place to do theology. Theology has an important place in the core curriculum here at St. Vincent College, and all the students who come into the college pass through what we call First Theology. It's a basic theology course that everyone takes. And in that course, we try to introduce to students the discipline and the habits of theology. And we introduce them to the ultimate classic text, if you will, sacred scripture. But we try to make a point, and this is a point that we want to make throughout the department. We want to make the point that the study of theology is certainly very much focused on the tradition of the church, on important and even sacred documents, but that theology is also really a lived discipline, a discipline that matters on the ground, right? And so many of our instructors and many sections that we offer encourage students to engage in what's called service learning. And it's this service learning component and the emphasis that we have on pastoral internships and even the possibility of teaching internships that really make theology at St. Vincent really special and impactful. Now, talk a little bit about the curriculum within the theology department. As I said, all students take a basic introductory course, and it's essentially an introduction to the reading of scripture in the Catholic and Benedictine tradition. Students move on from there, and in the theology department, students move on to courses in 4 different areas. They're required to take courses in scripture, in moral theology, in doctrine, or what we'd call systematic theology, and then they have to take a course in a 4th area that we usually refer to as sort of the Catholic tradition and the religious or cultural other. That is, we take a look at theology as it reaches out to various constituencies within modern society and how that impacts, changes, and challenges the theological tradition. Now, in the theology major, we also have 2 courses that are exclusive to theology majors and minors. They're called Systematics 1 and Systematics 2. Virtually every other course that the theology department offers is open to anyone in the college. And students have to satisfy a 9-credit requirement in the theology department regardless of their major. But theology majors have the opportunity, or I should say they have the requirement of taking Systematics 1 and Systematics 2. And these 2 courses are very much seminar-oriented courses in which students are introduced to thinking about important theological topics in a systematic way. That is, they explore the way in which discrete topics in theology sort of fit together. And these courses provide majors and minors with a kind of axis through a pretty diverse curriculum. That's one of the things I'd like to emphasize about theology at St. Vincent. Theology at St. Vincent really is dynamic and flexible as a program. That is, students who major in theology almost always major in one other discipline. Sometimes they're involved in joint majors with philosophy and or politics, but sometimes they pursued double majors in psychology and theology, or physics or biology and theology. We've designed the curriculum so that it's eminently flexible. And I hope that you take the time to talk to some members of the student body and some members of the faculty here at St. Vincent so that you can learn more about the exciting opportunities that are available to students in the theology department. And with that being said, let me hand it back to Dr. Crum for any Q&A that we might have at this point.
Great, and thank you, Chris. And let me just show you real quick so you can see the website. I encourage you to explore this more, but the philosophy and theology requirements, and you can see how they complement. Again, there's also a senior capstone where we encourage you to reflect on how faith and reason help to think through the topic of your choice. And I also want to say that Chris, I think, did unintentionally kind of showed one thing we all have in common is this commitment to these great texts that have been written through the ages, and as handmaidens to the theologians, we acknowledge that they get the greatest texts. So they get the scriptures. So we certainly try to work together as a department on all of these great texts. Okay, so enough from us, and now we'd like to hear any questions that people might have.
Okay, so students, now's the time. If you would like to continue to answer or ask us some questions, feel free to do that. Our first question today comes from Seth, and I'm going to send this out to Dr. Watson. So Seth wants to know, what do your graduates do after college? Is it hard for them to find work with these majors?
That's a very good question, Seth. Thanks for that. Our students actually do very, very well with placements. For our politics majors, we obviously have a lot of students who go to law school. We've had great success at placing students in some of the really best law school programs in the country. A number of other students, I think we have one with us here today, decide they're so interested in our approach to the study of politics that they want to pursue it at the graduate level in the hopes of becoming college professors, like some of us here, believe it or not. And they, in recent years, have tended to go to some very good graduate programs emphasizing political theory, political philosophy, American constitutionalism, and get full rides, get full tuition support and living stipends and so forth when they're there. And others of our students go into all manner of work immediately after graduating, all kinds of businesses. Some of them choose to get master's degrees, things like master's in public administration, master of public policy, if they're interested in working, especially in state and local government. And throughout the course of the politics major, we try to get interested students internships, practical experience where they can put their degrees to work. And I think one of the things that would be true of students in any of the programs we're talking about here, politics, philosophy, theology, is that you will get a very solid, broad, liberal education in any of these fields at St. Vincent College. And studies increasingly show that students with that kind of educational background and the intellectual dexterity that goes along with it fare very well, often even better by the midpoint in their career than students who have more narrow technical education. So we're very proud and confident of our placement records. Our students really do get to do exactly what they want to do after majoring in one of these fields, I think. And we might have a couple of students here who can speak more to that.
My name is Ryan Rosansky, and I graduated from St. Vincent in 2014 with a philosophy degree. And so I can speak to basically what I did with my philosophy degree from St. Vincent. I went to law school at William and Mary in Virginia. And after I graduated there, I came out to Arizona and to the University of Arizona, where I got a master's degree focused on legal research. And I was able to teach legal research at the University of Arizona to their first year law students for a year, which was a great experience. I should say even throughout law school, I was able to, even though I was in law school in Virginia, I was able to come back to the Pittsburgh area and spend time at the district attorney's office in Greensburg, which was a fantastic experience as well. And now I work at a law firm in Phoenix where I help lead the research and information services department, formerly known as the library, where we do legal research for the firm. So, my degree from St. Vincent allowed me to do a lot of different things in my career. I will talk a little bit about how my philosophy degree in particular helped me as a law student and a lawyer, because I know law school is something that a lot of people are interested in. Obviously, there are numbers on this, right? That philosophy is one of the top, usually in the top 3 majors in terms of scoring well on the LSAT, or the entrance exam to law school. There's also, in any of these majors that we're talking about today, be it politics, philosophy, or theology, there is a lot of analytical reasoning involved and writing skills emphasized, right? And these are skills you will use in law school. Taking a philosophical theory, right, and looking at it against all these different objections and working through these arguments is a lot like taking a law on a law school exam and introducing it to unique fact patterns. I mean, that is a lot of what a law school exam looks like. And so to get that training in an undergraduate setting and to really have time to cultivate that is a great step, if you're interested in law school. And I often talk as well. I mean, those are things I think you can read online, and there are numbers out there about this, but I think there are ways in which my philosophy degree has just helped make me a better lawyer. I'm licensed in Pennsylvania. I went through the process of becoming a lawyer, and it doesn't get said a lot, but a good lawyer is going to have a conception of ethics, right? There's a lot of gray areas in the process of being a lawyer. Philosophical training is great with that. Having a conception of justice, right? At the district attorney's office, this was a big thing. When you're working in criminal law, I mean, having a conception of justice and having, a sense of what you're actually doing is important. And then there are all kinds of instances, and you might not think this, but where a philosophical understanding of the law helps me on a daily basis. In law school, for instance, there, like I said, on exams, there are questions about applying the law to a set of facts, right? And those are a lot of questions that come up. But there are also questions which we call policy questions about, it's not asking you to interpret the law or apply the law, it's asking you what the law should be. And I think in those settings, and those are the kinds of questions that make law students very nervous, but having a philosophical understanding of the law helps a great deal. Understanding the nature of law, for instance, what are the essential properties of law? What are the necessary implications of law? These are questions that the majors we're talking about today can address, and they do help in law school. Some of the scariest law school exam questions go back to having that philosophical understanding of the law. And finally, I think the main way and the richer way the law has helped me in my career is dealing with ambiguities, because the law is riddled with ambiguities. There are different conceptions. For instance, the word reasonable appears many times in the law, and attorneys scratch their heads trying to figure out what reasonable means in different settings. When you see reasonable in a criminal law, for instance, that can be much different than reasonable in tort law or any other kinds of law. And in my philosophy classes at St. Vincent, I spent a lot of time figuring out, what does Aristotle mean by justice? When I see justice, what conception of justice are we talking about? Which approach are we taking to that conception of justice? So there are plenty of ways in which my degree has helped me in my career and in just being a law student. And so I think if you are interested in law, a degree in politics or philosophy, I mean, my degree has helped me a great deal. And very briefly at the end here, I want to speak to the atmosphere at St. Vincent. I loved my time in St. Vincent. I'm so glad I can come back and talk about it here. The atmosphere is great. We talk about the Benedictines on campus and everything. And I really enjoyed my time in St. Vincent. So thank you for having me today.
So you can see that we're very excited about this particular question, I think in part because in all of our programs, politics, philosophy, and theology, there's just this misconception out there that these are majors that don't prepare you for a job or that you can't get a degree. And that is so absolutely false. I would just even encourage you to look this up. Yale University had a nice study on this, on just looking at average salary. And I'll just show you this and then we'll move on, but there's so much more I'd love to say. And we also have Paul Weiser here, who is moving on to Baylor University. So he'll have a chance to speak later, maybe on another topic. But just to show you quickly that here is a list of what our grads in recent years have done in terms of their careers. And as you can see, it's just about any type of career that you can think of. And then the graduate programs they've gone to, from Princeton to Catholic U. And then we actually have a nice testimonial from Ryan Rosansky at the bottom here many years ago that he wrote. So just encourage you to explore those things, but I know we want to move on to other questions.
Great, thank you so much for the detailed answer that you've given us today. We do have a question that is coming in from one of our viewers, and here's the question. And I believe this will probably go to Dr. McMahon. It was said that there was some service included in taking theology. What exactly does this entail? Are there other general requirements for service or campus ministry?
That's a great question. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I apologize. Service learning is an instructional tool used in many theology courses, though not all. If service learning is something that's not quite in your area of interest, it's easily sidestepped. If it's something that you enjoy and are interested in, it's available, and it's available broadly. In addition to service learning as a required component of some courses, it'll often involve things like working with a prison population, or working with a local homeless shelter, or with local autism schools. We have a variety of community partners. But we also have internships that are part of the program that we encourage students to engage in. If your major area of study in another field is requiring you to work in particular areas and you don't have the time to devote to service learning or internships in the theology department, you can easily structure your program without that. But we make it available, and make it available broadly, and we try and tailor it to the interests, the abilities of the student.
Thank you. Appreciate that answer. The next question is coming in from Julia, and this is going to go out to Dr. Crom. Can you tell me more about the Center for Catholic Thought and Culture?
Okay, yes, sorry. I need to speak to get you over to me. So yeah, let me show you the website. I'm not able to share my screen. There we go, okay. Let me show you this here. So the Center for Catholic Thought and Culture was created just this last academic year, and it really was designed to bring together a variety of things already going on campus, either for faculty or students, or reaching out to broader communities. And I think particularly for students, what would interest them are three programs here, and I'm going to start in order in terms of where you would interact with them. The first one is the Faith and Reason Summer Program. So there's a week-long program every summer. We are in our 10th year, and where students come together, roughly 30 or 40 students come together each summer, live on campus, get an experience of what it's like to engage in college classrooms, and to participate in prayer and with the monks, and mass each day, and hiking and so forth. And so I'd encourage you to look to that. And yes, we are hoping very much, God willing, that we will be doing our 10th year this year. We were actually planning on ending with a dance. We have a beautiful rustic barn in the Winnie Palmer Nature Reserve. So hopefully we will be doing that. But of course, we all know things are on hold right now. The second thing that I encourage you to look at is the SVC Summer Institute in Rome. So this is also brand new. We have a Rome campus in a wonderful setting in the Aventine Hill at San Anselmo Seminary. And so students come, St. Vincent students, any major can do this for 5 weeks on campus, get 10 college credits and get to live in Rome for 5 weeks. So it's really a phenomenal program. Again, encourage you to look through all of this and the particular courses that we offer there. And then third and finally, really encourage you to look at the Benedictine Leadership Studies program, and maybe we could talk about that more later. But this is a program for St. Vincent students that runs through all 4 of their years, in which they learn about what it means to be a servant leader, focused on the Benedictine hallmarks, of which there are 10, and again, encourage you to look at that. The capstone project is going to Rome for a week at spring break. We have a nice video on that. And again, on the website, you can see the other components that are involved. And especially for parents that I'm sure you'd be excited, there's a $2,000 per year fellowship with this program. So any student who does the program gets that $2,000 renewable throughout the 4 years. There are other things the center does, but those are, I think, the main things right now that I would encourage you to look into.
Great, thank you, Dr. Crom. Now we have a question coming in from Timothy. This one I'm going to send out to Dr. Mann. The question is, I'm discerning a vocation to the priesthood. Do you have any special programs to help with my discernment?
That's a great question. And we have a good number of students who matriculate in the philosophy and theology joint program, and even in other programs throughout the college, who are discerning priesthood and religious life. One of the key features of our program is that we allow our students to, with the permission of the department, to take classes in the seminary. And so they really do get a taste of what seminary education is about. And as I said before, because we have a robust seminary and monastic presence on campus, there's an ability to really work with people to think about the spiritual and personal dimensions, as well as the academic dimensions of a religious vocation. But with that being said, I think I should probably turn it over to one of our students. Jimmy, you've been working through this during your time here at St. Vincent. Do you have some things to say about the idea of using the undergraduate program as a vehicle for discerning religious life?
Yes, hi, my name is Jimmy Rosa, by the way, and I'm a senior here at St. Vincent. And when it comes to vocational discernment, I know that everyone has their own unique story. Everyone has their own path that the Lord has brought them forward, and unique things about their own stories. And I know for myself, I could talk for hours about my own vocation. I am blessed to say that I'm able to enter St. Vincent Archabbey come this July, hopefully, July 1st. And this whole process really has kickstarted since freshman year for me. There have been a variety of different things that have happened. One of the major things that really helped me discern with the Benedictines in particular is what's called Neighborhood to Neighborhood, which is a program that's part of the orientation that you have as a freshman when you come in, where you have the opportunity to pray evening prayer with your pod and with your local community that you're with as a freshman, with the entire monastic community. And then you get to go to dinner with a few of the monks and ask them questions, just get to know a little bit more about the monks as a whole and as St. Vincent Archabbey community in general as well. I know for myself that really touched me, and that was something that when I was on campus all throughout the last 3 years, I've been able to go to evening prayer and to go to prayer with the monks on a regular basis, as well as the Archabbey also hosts several come and see weekend retreats, one each semester, and I've been able to take advantage of that as well. I've received really, really good advice and really good consolation from different faculty members from both the philosophy, politics, and actually the theology department as well. Other departments as well have helped with that. I really appreciate St. Vincent just for providing a space and an opportunity with the students, with the faculty, and with the monks to just pursue a wide variety of different vocations. The space to really pursue that in the Lord's presence, that has really made all the difference for me. And that is really, I would say, what has led me to pursue a vocation to the monastery in particular.
Jimmy, thank you so much for that answer. We're going to move along now with a question for Dr. Watson. This question is coming in from William. You mentioned the Center for Political and Economic Thought. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, I sure can. The Center for Political and Economic Thought is a major sort of educational and public policy research organization here on campus with really a national reputation. What we do, well, we do several things. We fund some fellowship programs for students. We call it the George Washington Fellowship Program. There's a student here who is a George Washington Fellow. Maybe we'll get him on. But the main focus of our efforts really is bringing speakers to campus from across the United States and indeed all around the world. Some of the leading thinkers in the realms of politics, economics, and culture. And we've raised money specifically not only to bring the speakers to campus, but to host wonderful dinners where students can sit down and get to know these speakers a little bit. It gives students access to a wider intellectual world outside of St. Vincent. And I often joke that, to win a Nobel Prize in economics, you have to speak at St. Vincent College, because so many of our speakers have gone on to win the Nobel Prize. The center really is, we also have work study opportunities for students who are interested in the center. But if you're interested in public life generally, politics, economics, and culture, you're really going to be interested in what's going on with the Center for Political and Economic Thought. And I'll turn it over to let a student who's had some affiliation with the center say a bit more.
All right, hi there, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Paul Weiser. I'm a senior politics and philosophy dual major at St. Vincent. Next year, I will be heading off to Baylor University to work towards a doctorate in political science. And as Dr. Watson mentioned, I am involved with the Center for Political and Economic Thought. I work for the center, and I am currently one of the GW fellows that the center helps to fund. So briefly to speak about the center's lectures, they are a really incredible opportunity. As Dr. Watson mentioned, we do bring in a number of incredibly well-qualified speakers with some very interesting topics and lectures that they have to give. So if you were to come to St. Vincent, I highly recommend attending those. And as far as the GW Fellowship, the George Washington Fellowship is an opportunity for students generally in their junior or senior year to research a particular topic of interest, often that relates to their senior thesis. And it's done independently, semi-independently, so that you're working with the professors in a pretty one-on-one capacity, where you are recommended readings and other materials that you wouldn't necessarily get in class that will help you learn about and develop your interest in your particular topic. And then just briefly, another program that is associated with the Center for Political and Economic Thought is the Aurelius Scholars run through the politics program, which is focused on learning about Western civilization. We do reading groups and trips as well. So that is yet another great academic opportunity at St. Vincent. I believe Dr. Crom has more to say on a couple of these.
Yeah, it just occurred to me. Can you hear me? It just occurred to me that Paul has done all three of these programs: Benedictine Leadership Studies, Aurelius Scholars, and the George Washington Fellows. So if you're thinking about scholarship opportunities that the college has, I encourage you again, go to the website to look up all of those. And I also just want to go back to Paul, if you could speak to the Benedictine Leadership Program. And we're very short on time, but just quickly. So again, Rome, spring break, senior year for 4 years. You and your friends have been working out to do this, and obviously a challenging year for you and Jimmy as well to have your senior year go like this. Can you tell us what we did for spring break in light of the circumstances that we couldn't go to Rome, Italy? Just tell them what we were able to do instead.
Yeah, sure thing. So I was supposed to go to Rome twice this spring and summer. I'm going to Rome 0 times, so that has been quite the change. However, for spring break, instead of going to Rome with the Benedictine Leadership Program, we went to the Rome of the South, Savannah, Georgia, stopping in Charleston and many other places along the way. So we had a chance to learn about American history rather than Roman history, which was still great for me as a Civil War buff. So we took a trip through the South. We were able to see a lot of great places, do a lot of great things. And so it was really an incredibly enjoyable trip, even though it wasn't Rome.
And I should say that's the kind of community we have, that in a mere 48-hour period, we went from going to Rome, Italy, to being able to put together a trip to Savannah. And I think it went very well. We had really no reservations anywhere, and we were able to just to go work together. It was really a phenomenal experience.
At this point, Dr. Crom, do you have any final words you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and it was great to get all three of our departments, to get Ryan Rosansky, an alum who we haven't seen for years, and Jimmy and Paul, who we are wishing very well on their life's journey ahead. And for those of you who have been accepted and who would be coming in the fall, very much encourage you, of course, to ask any questions you have of us. Send us an email and get your deposit in. We would love to have you here. We're excited about coming back. And for those of you who are prospective students who are looking for a couple years in the future, again, we'd love to hear more from you to get you to campus. And but please consider this the beginning of the conversation. And so thank you for your time, everybody.
Great. Thank you so much to everyone. As Dr. Crom said, to all of our panelists, to all of our viewers, for any of those prospective students who are ready to make a decision to come to St. Vincent, feel free to send us your reservation deposit, or you can pay that securely right online at stvincent.edu/deposit. We certainly hope that you plan to become a St. Vincent College Bearcat. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to welcoming you to campus soon.